All right, guys, this is our last week of notes. I know you're super excited. I am too. So this is the last week of new material. Next week will just be to complete everything and catch up and make sure your grade is where you want it to be, whether it's pass and complete or a letter grade. So let's get started with the last two sets of notes. We have today's notes and Wednesday's notes. So today I'm going to teach you about imaginary numbers. Now this will be something brand new you've never seen before. Yeah, I know, brand new in the last week. This was supposed to be done like 2 months ago. So, an imaginary number, we have a real number system, which includes our fractions and numbers 1 through infinity and our negative numbers and all that kind of stuff. But what we don't have is the square root of a negative number. I can't find the square root of a negative number. There's no such thing as two numbers that multiply to be a negative number. So if I had like the square root of negative 16, well, 4 times 4 is positive 16, and negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. The only way to get negative 16 is if one of them is positive, one of them is negative, in which case they are not the same number. That's where the imaginary number system comes in. So don't think of this as something difficult, because it's not going to be until you take Algebra 2 and they go into more manipulating with it. This is just to introduce you as to what an imaginary number is. So the imaginary number in its standard form, yes, that is the letter I. It is a lowercase cursive looking I, is the square root of negative 1. It is in the math symbols when you go to type things in, so you'll find it there. So it is very, very simple, I promise. So the square root of negative 1 is I. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the square root. It's either going to be a perfect square or you're going to do a factor tree. Then you're going to put the I in front of the radical, or after the whole number. So your answers are going to look like this. It's either going to be something like plus or minus 6i root 2. Notice where the I is. And notice I took the square root of whatever number I got and then just stuck an I in there, and it takes out the negative. Once you put the I there, there's no longer a negative. That's the whole point. You could have something like I squared root of 5, 2i squared root of 3, or 4i if it's a perfect, this is your perfect square example. It will not look like this. I put a bunch of examples of things that I should not see. There should not be I out front plus or minus and then a radical. It should not be I plus or minus a radical. Notice the I does not go inside. It goes outside the radical. And it's always the number before the letter. It's not I4, it's 4I. So I wanted to make sure you were aware of what it doesn't look like. So let's do 2 examples and then I'll be done. So the first example here is the square root of negative 72. 72, if I type it in, is not a perfect square. So I'm going to do a factor tree of 72. Just the 72, you're going to ignore the negative. Well, I've got 8 times 9. I've got 2 times 4. 2 and 2. And then 3 and 3. And just like before, I'm going to list them all out. So I have 3 2s and 2 3s. Okay. So I'm going to circle my pairs of 2s and my pair of 3s. And then my radical piece, remember you take one of each, so 2 times 3 is 6. My leftovers go back inside. None of this changes. This doesn't change. We've already done it. We've seen it. We've done it many times. You did it with the quadratic formula. We've seen it. Here's the difference. Because this is negative, I have to deal with that. So in order to deal with that negative, you simply put an I right there on the outside of the radical. That's it. That's all there is to this. Don't make this something super duper hard. All right, this one is a perfect square. So see if you can figure out, based on the stuff up here, the answers that look like this, see if you can figure out what the square root of negative 49 is. Pause the video, see if you can get the answer. Come back when you're ready. All right, let's see how you did. Well, the square root of 49 is just 7. It is a perfect square. I don't need to do the factor tree thing. It's just 7, but I have to deal with the negative. So I have to have an I in my answer. If it is negative, there better be an I. So it is literally just 7i. That's it. That's your answer. So if it's a perfect square, you're just going to have a number with an I after it. So now you're ready to do the 2 follow-up questions that I've provided, and then tomorrow you'll do a couple of classwork problems. Wednesday will be the last set of notes for the year. Thursday, 1 more classwork, and Friday a quiz. So let me know if you have questions.